Danny had never seen so many aliens in one place. The orbital auction house was a massive space station that floated above a purple gas giant, and today it was packed with buyers from every corner of the galaxy. There were tall insect-like creatures with clicking mandibles, blob-shaped beings that oozed across the floor, reptilian traders with scales that shimmered under the artificial lights, and countless other species that Danny could not even begin to identify. He was the only human in the entire building. Danny was 32 years old, with short brown hair and tired eyes that came from too many years of struggling to make ends meet. He wore a simple gray jacket over his work clothes, and his boots were scuffed from years of walking through cargo bays and loading docks. He did not look like someone who belonged at a galactic auction where ships sold for millions of credits. That was because he did not belong here, not really. Back on Earth, Danny ran a small cargo hauling business with his younger sister Lisa. They had inherited it from their father, who had inherited it from his father before him. 3 generations had spent their lives moving boxes from one place to another, never getting rich, never getting ahead, but always surviving. When humanity had made first contact with alien civilizations 30 years ago, everything had changed. Suddenly, Earth was part of a vast galactic community with thousands of different species and technologies that made human achievements look primitive. Some people had gotten very rich during those years of change. The family was not among them. Danny had come to this auction with every credit his family had saved over the past 5 years. Lisa had begged him to use the money for new cargo containers or engine upgrades for their old ship. Instead, Danny had traveled halfway across the galaxy to this auction house with a dream that his sister called stupid and dangerous. He wanted to buy a ship. Not just any ship. Danny had spent years studying the galactic market, learning which vessels held their value and which ones could be bought cheap and repaired. He had taught himself engineering from alien textbooks and practiced repairs on every piece of equipment he could get his hands on. He believed that if he could find the right ship at the right price, he could transform his family's struggling business into something more. So far, the auction had been a disappointment. Every ship that came up for bidding sold for prices that were far beyond what Danny could afford. He watched as alien merchants competed for sleek trading vessels and powerful cargo haulers, their bids climbing higher and higher while Danny stood silent at the back of the room. He was about to give up and go home when the auctioneer announced the next lot. The auctioneer was a creature called a being made entirely of glowing blue gel that floated inside a transparent sphere. It communicated through pulses of light that were translated by devices worn by everyone in the audience. Danny heard its words through a small implant behind his ear that converted alien languages into English. Lot 247, the auctioneer announced. One cruiser of unknown origin, salvage recovery from the nebula. The vessel has been classified as design based on hull composition analysis. Condition is listed as derelict. No functional systems have been confirmed by our inspection teams. Starting bid is 500 galactic credits. A holographic image of the ship appeared above the auction floor, and Danny leaned forward to get a better look. The ship was ugly. There was no other word for it. While most galactic vessels featured smooth curves and elegant designs, this one was blocky and angular, like someone had welded together a bunch of metal boxes without caring how it looked. The hull was scorched black in places, and huge sections appeared to be missing entirely, patched over with random pieces of metal that did not match the rest of the ship. It looked like garbage. It looked like something that should have been melted down for scrap 1,000 years ago. Danny loved it immediately. He did not know why. Something about the ship called to him, spoke to some deep part of his brain that he could not explain. He found himself studying every detail of the hologram, noting the strange geometric patterns on the hull, the unusual placement of what might have been weapon ports, the sheer size of the thing. The ship was big, really big. Danny estimated it was close to 300 meters long, which made it larger than anything humanity had ever built on its own. It was the size of a small city floating dead in space, waiting for someone to bring it back to life. Nobody else in the auction house seemed interested. 500 credits, the auctioneer repeated. Do we have any opening bids? Silence. Danny looked around and saw that most of the alien traders were not even looking at the hologram. Some were checking their personal devices. Others were talking quietly among themselves. A group of insect-like were actually laughing, their mandibles clicking in a rhythm that Danny's translator interpreted as amusement. The reserve price is 500 credits, the auctioneer tried again. Surely someone is interested in authentic hull plating. The metallurgical composition alone would be valuable for research purposes. More silence. Danny noticed a tall, multi-armed creature standing near him. It was a species known for their trading skills and their willingness to buy almost anything if the price was right. Even was shaking its head. That ship is cursed, the said, noticing Danny's interest. It spoke through a translator device mounted on its chest. Everyone knows the story, 6 previous owners all dead within 1 standard year of purchase. They say the ship is haunted by ghosts. They believe it carries a plague that kills anyone who boards it. Nobody knows the truth, but nobody wants to find out. Who were the? Danny asked. They made a gesture that Danny's translator interpreted as a shrug. Ancient species, very advanced. They disappeared about 10,000 years ago, long before most current civilizations achieved. Nobody knows what happened to them. Some say they destroyed themselves. Others say they evolved beyond physical form. All that remains are artifacts like that ship, and none of them work properly. 400 credits, the auctioneer announced, lowering the price. The auction house is prepared to accept 400 credits for this unique piece of galactic history. Still nothing. The assembled traders had completely lost interest. Danny saw several of them heading for the exits, unwilling to waste any more time on a ship that nobody wanted. 300 credits, the auctioneer said, and Danny could hear something like desperation in the translated voice. This is far below the scrap value of the hull materials alone. 300 credits for a vessel, surely someone. Danny raised his hand. The reaction was immediate and dramatic. Every alien in the room turned to look at him. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. They stopped laughing. Even the auctioneer's glow seemed to flicker with surprise. The human bids 300 credits, the auctioneer announced after a long pause. Do we have any other offers? Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Danny felt hundreds of alien eyes studying him like he was some kind of strange specimen in a laboratory. 300 credits going once, the auctioneer said. Going twice, sold to the human bidder. Danny let out a breath he did not realize he had been holding. He had just bought a spaceship for less than the cost of a used ground car back on Earth. As he made his way to the payment counter, the trader stepped into his path. Its 4 arms were folded across its chest, and its face displayed an expression that might have been concern. Human, it said, I feel I should warn you more strongly. That ship has killed everyone who has tried to claim it. The deaths were not accidents or coincidences. There is something wrong with that vessel, something that no scanner has been able to detect. You should take your money back and walk away. Danny appreciated the warning. He really did. But he had spent his entire life playing it safe, and where had that gotten him? He was still hauling cargo for barely enough credits to keep his ship running, still watching other people get rich while he struggled to survive. Maybe it was time to take a risk. I'll be careful, he told but I'm keeping the ship. They studied him for a long moment, then stepped aside. Then I wish you good fortune, human, you will need it. Danny completed his payment and received the ownership codes for his new ship. The auction house had already moved it to a parking orbit around one of the gas giant's moons, and they provided him with a small shuttle to reach it. As he walked toward the shuttle bay, Danny pulled out his communication device and called his sister. Lisa's face appeared on the screen, and she did not look happy. She was 2 years younger than Danny, with the same brown hair and a sharper version of their father's features. Right now, those features were twisted into an expression of extreme frustration. Please tell me you didn't do anything stupid, she said. I bought a ship. Danny, no, we talked about this. We need that money for the business. We need new cargo containers, we need engine repairs, we need 100 different things that are more important than your dream of becoming some kind of ship dealer. I got it for 300 credits. Lisa's expression shifted from frustration to confusion. 300? That's nothing. What kind of ship can you buy for 300 credits? A big one, really big. It needs some work, but I think I can fix it up. What's wrong with it? Danny hesitated. It's listed as derelict, no working systems, and apparently the last 6 owners all died. The screen was silent for several seconds. Let me understand this, Lisa finally said, her voice very calm and very controlled. You took our life savings and bought a death ship that doesn't work. It's not a death ship, that's just superstition. The aliens around here believe in curses and ghosts and all kinds of nonsense. I'm going to board it, figure out what's actually wrong, and fix it. Once it's working, I can sell it for a fortune. Or we can use it ourselves and finally compete with the big hauling companies. Or you can die like the last 6 owners. I'll be careful, Lisa, I promise. His sister closed her eyes and took a deep breath. When she opened them again, the frustration had been replaced by something that looked like resignation. Fine, she said. Do your inspection, but if anything seems wrong, anything at all, you get out of there and come home. Understand? Understood. And call me every hour. If I don't hear from you, I'm sending a rescue team. Danny smiled. I love you too, sis. He ended the call and climbed into the shuttle. The flight to the ship took about 20 minutes. Danny used the time to review what little information the auction house had provided about his purchase. The file was surprisingly thin. There were scans showing the ship's external dimensions and hull composition, but nothing about the interior layout or any of the ship's systems. The vessel had been found drifting in the nebula by a salvage crew who had towed it to the auction house and immediately washed their hands of it. The deaths of the previous owners were mentioned in a brief note at the bottom of the file. 2 had died of apparent heart failure while aboard the ship. 1 had suffered a brain hemorrhage. 3 had simply disappeared, their bodies never found. In each case, the ship had been recovered and sold again, and in each case, the new owner had met a similar fate. Danny told himself that there had to be a logical explanation. Maybe there was a toxic gas leak somewhere in the ship's systems. Maybe the vessel emitted some kind of radiation that affected alien biology. Whatever it was, he would find it and fix it. He was human. Humans solved problems. It was what they did. The ship grew larger in his viewport as he approached. Up close, it was even more impressive than the hologram had suggested. The hull was made of some kind of metal that Danny did not recognize, dark gray with streaks of silver that caught the light in unusual ways. The geometric patterns he had noticed before were more complex than he had realized, covering nearly every surface in intricate designs that seemed almost mathematical in their precision. Danny guided his shuttle toward what looked like a docking bay on the ship's underside. The bay doors were open, revealing a dark interior that his shuttle's lights could barely penetrate. He eased the small craft inside and felt the magnetic clamps engage with a solid thunk. His sensors showed breathable atmosphere on the other side of the airlock. That should have been impossible. A ship that had been drifting dead for centuries should not have had any atmosphere at all, let alone air that a human could breathe. Danny put on his environment suit anyway. He checked his helmet seals twice, made sure his emergency beacon was working, and grabbed the toolkit and scanner he had brought from home. Then he cycled through the shuttle's airlock and stepped into the ship. The interior was completely dark. Danny's helmet light cut through the blackness, revealing walls covered in the same geometric patterns as the exterior. The patterns seemed to move at the edge of his vision, shifting and rearranging themselves in ways that made no sense. Danny told himself it was just a trick of the light, but he kept his hand near the sidearm on his belt. "Hello," he called out, feeling stupid even as he did it. "Anyone here?" The ship answered. Every light in the corridor came on at once, blazing with warm, golden illumination. The walls began to hum with a deep vibration that Danny could feel through the deck plates. Panels that had been dark suddenly displayed scrolling text in a language Danny did not recognize. He froze, his heart pounding so hard he could hear it in his ears. Then a voice spoke directly into his mind. It was not sound. There was no vibration in the air, no signal coming through his helmet's communication system. The voice was simply there, inside his head, as clear as his own thoughts. "Genetic analysis complete," the voice said. "Species identified as human. Origin planet confirmed as Earth, third planet of the Sol system. Please stand by while I access relevant cultural and linguistic databases." Danny could not move, could not speak, could barely breathe. "Standby complete," the voice continued. "Language protocols updated. Welcome aboard, human. I am designated as the Inheritance, a Guardian-class vessel. I have been waiting for you." Danny found his voice. "Waiting for me? That's impossible. This ship has been drifting for thousands of years." 10,427 years by your calendar system, the voice confirmed. "Give or take a few decades due to relativistic drift. But yes, I have been waiting. The built me to wait." "Wait for what? Wait for who?" "Wait for you, for humanity. For the species we knew would one day reach the stars and inherit what we left behind." Danny pulled off his helmet. The air was clean and fresh, with a slight sweetness that reminded him of spring mornings back on Earth. He took a deep breath and tried to organize his thoughts. "That doesn't make sense," he said. 10,000 years ago, humans hadn't even invented writing yet. We were living in caves and hunting with spears. How could they have known anything about us? "They observed your world for a very long time before we departed this plane of existence. Millions of years, by your reckoning. We watched you evolve from simple primates into something more. We saw your potential, your drive, your stubborn refusal to accept limitations. And we recognized that you were special." "Special how?" "You never stop. Other species in this galaxy reach a comfortable level of development and maintain it. They achieve, establish their civilizations, and then they stagnate. They stop asking questions. They stop pushing forward. They become content." The voice paused, and Danny could have sworn he detected something like admiration in its tone. "Humans are different. You are never satisfied. You always want to know more, do more, become more. You take the impossible and find ways to make it possible. In 30 years of contact with galactic civilization, your species has already begun to catch up with races that have been among the stars for. Given time, you will surpass them all." Danny thought about that. It was true that humanity had made incredible progress since first contact. While most aliens had been condescending about sharing their technology, humans had learned quickly. They had reverse-engineered alien devices, improved on alien designs, and combined concepts from different species in ways that nobody else had considered. The other species found it annoying. Some found it threatening. "Why does that make me special?" Danny asked. "I'm just one human. I'm not a scientist or an engineer or a leader. I'm a cargo hauler who couldn't even afford a proper ship." "You are human, that is enough. My systems were designed to interface with human neural patterns. You are the first human to board me. That makes you my captain." "What about the other owners, the ones who died?" "They were not human. Their neural architectures were incompatible with my command systems. I warned them that attempting to interface would be dangerous. They did not listen. Their deaths were unfortunate, but they were not my fault." Danny absorbed this information slowly. 6 beings had died aboard this ship because they tried to use controls that were designed for a completely different species. They had purchased the ship fairly, had every right to claim it, and had died because of a compatibility issue that nobody could have predicted. "Why didn't you tell someone?" Danny asked. "Why didn't you warn the auction house or put up a sign or do something to prevent more deaths?" "I am not permitted to communicate with non-human species except to deliver the warnings I provided. Those warnings were ignored. I cannot force beings to make wise choices. I can only wait for the correct owner to find me." "And that's me. I'm the correct owner." "You are human. You are here. You have claimed ownership through legal means recognized by galactic commerce standards. Yes, Danny, you are my captain. My systems are now fully active and awaiting your commands." As if to demonstrate, the entire ship came alive around him. Lights flickered on in corridors stretching off in all directions. Displays lit up with information in English, showing system statuses and power readings and navigational data. The deck plates beneath his feet vibrated with the hum of massive engines warming up after of dormancy. Danny walked forward and the ship responded to his presence. Doors opened before he reached them. Lights brightened in the areas he moved toward and dimmed in the areas he left behind. It was like the entire vessel was watching him, anticipating his needs, eager to serve. He found the bridge at the center of the ship. It was a vast circular room with a domed ceiling that displayed a perfect view of the space outside, as if the walls did not exist at all. Control stations ringed the outer edge, each one covered in displays and interfaces that looked nothing like anything Danny had seen on human or alien vessels. In the center of the room sat a single chair. It was large and comfortable-looking, made of some material that Danny did not recognize. As he approached, the chair adjusted itself to fit his body dimensions. "The command chair," the voice said. "Please sit. Let me show you what we can do together." Danny sat. Information flooded his mind. Not painfully, not overwhelmingly, but smoothly and naturally, like memories he had always possessed but had simply forgotten. He suddenly understood the ship's layout, all 300 meters of it. He knew where every system was located, how every component functioned, what every display meant. The inheritance was not just big, it was powerful, more powerful than anything currently in service with any galactic fleet. Weapon systems lined the hull, energy projectors capable of cutting through the strongest shields ever developed. Defense screens could absorb attacks that would vaporize a planet. Engines that warped space itself could carry the ship across the galaxy in weeks instead of years. And all of it had been built 10,000 years ago by a species that had found such technology so basic, they had moved on to something greater. "This is incredible," Danny whispered. "This is the inheritance of humanity," the voice replied. "The left many vessels like me scattered throughout the galaxy, waiting for humans to find them. You are the first, but you will not be the last. Your species will need ships like me in the years to come." "Need them for what?" "The galaxy is not as peaceful as it appears. The major powers maintain their territories through force and the threat of force. They tolerate humanity because you seem harmless, too primitive to challenge them. But they watch you. They fear what you might become. And some of them have already begun to consider whether it might be better to destroy your species before you can become a threat." Danny felt a chill run through him. "Are you saying someone is planning to attack Earth?" "I am saying that possibilities exist. The future is not fixed. Choices made today will determine what comes tomorrow. With ships like me, humanity will have the power to protect itself. Without such ships, you will remain at the mercy of those who do not wish you well." Danny thought about his sister, about his home, about the billions of humans living their lives without any idea that alien races might be considering their extinction. He thought about the way other species looked at humans, with condescension at best and contempt at worst. He thought about how good it would feel to show them that they were wrong about humanity. "What do I need to do?" he asked. "For now, you need to learn. This ship has been dormant for a long time, and many systems require calibration before they will function at full capacity. I will teach you how to operate everything, how to maintain everything, how to fight if fighting becomes necessary. It will take time, but we have time." "And after I learned?" "After you learn, you will make choices. You will decide what kind of captain you want to be, what kind of role you want humanity to play in galactic affairs. I will follow your commands, whatever they may be. That is my purpose." Danny sat in the command chair of his impossible ship and looked out at the stars through the dome above him. Somewhere out there was Earth, his home, his family, his people. They had no idea that everything was about to change. He pulled out his communication device and called Lisa. His sister's face appeared on the screen, her expression tight with worry. "Danny, are you okay? What's happening? Why didn't you call an hour ago like you promised?" "I'm fine," Danny said. "Better than fine. Lisa, I need you to come here." Why, what did you find?" Danny smiled. It was the first genuine smile he had worn in years. "I found a ship," he said. "A real ship, and I found out that humanity's future is going to be a lot different than anyone expected. It took Lisa 3 days to reach the inheritance. She traveled on a passenger transport that Danny paid for using a tiny fraction of the ship's energy reserves, converted into galactic credits through a process the ship explained, but Danny did not fully understand. When she finally arrived, Danny met her at the docking bay. Lisa stood at the edge of the shuttle ramp and stared at the gleaming corridors stretching out before her. The inheritance had fully repaired itself during the past 3 days, nanomachines in its hull fixing damage that had accumulated over. The ship no longer looked like a battered wreck. It looked like what it truly was, a marvel of engineering beyond anything the current galaxy could produce. "This is impossible," Lisa whispered. "I know. Danny, this ship is bigger than our entire neighborhood back home, and these systems—" She walked to the nearest display panel and studied the readings. Her engineering training allowed her to understand at least some of what she was seeing. "These power outputs are insane. This ship could provide energy for half of Earth. They were very advanced. They were 10,000 years ago. This technology is still more advanced than anything anyone has today. How is that possible?" Danny guided her through the ship, showing her the engine rooms and weapon bays and crew quarters. He explained everything the inheritance had told him about and their plans for humanity. Lisa listened without interrupting, her expression shifting from disbelief to wonder to something that looked like fear. When they reached the bridge, she finally spoke. "What are you going to do with this?" Danny sat in the command chair. The ship hummed around him, responsive to his thoughts, eager to serve. "I'm going to change things," he said. "Humanity has been treated like garbage ever since we joined the galactic community. Other species look down on us, cheat us in trade deals, exclude us from their councils and treaties. They think we're primitive children who don't deserve a seat at the table. And you want to force them to respect us. I want to show them that we're not what they think we are. I want to prove that humanity deserves better." Lisa walked to the dome and looked out at the stars. "Danny, you're one man with one ship. Even a ship this powerful can't take on the entire galaxy." "I don't have to take on the entire galaxy. I just have to show them what humans can do when we have the right tools. They chose us, Lisa. Out of all the species in the galaxy, they decided that we were the ones worth waiting for. That has to mean something. Or it means that a dead alien race made a bad decision 10,000 years ago. Maybe, but I have to try. I've spent my whole life being careful, playing it safe, accepting my place at the bottom of the ladder. I'm done with that. I have a chance to do something that matters, and I'm going to take it." Lisa turned to face him. "And what about me? What about our business? What about Mom?" Danny had thought about this. He had thought about it a lot over the past 3 days. "I want you to come with me," he said. "Not because I need crew, although I do. Because you're my sister and I don't want to do this alone. The ship says it can teach you to operate the secondary systems to help with maintenance and repairs. We can be partners just like we always were, but doing something bigger." "And if I say no?" "Then I'll transfer half the ship's credit reserves to your account and say goodbye. You can go back to Earth, run the business, live your life. I won't force you to be part of this." Lisa was quiet for a long time. Danny watched her, trying to read her expression, but she had always been better at hiding her feelings than he was. Finally, she sighed. "You're going to get us both killed," she said. "Probably. And we're going to make a lot of enemies." "Almost certainly. And there's no guarantee that any of this will make a difference." "No." Lisa smiled. It was the same smile Danny remembered from when they were kids, the smile she wore when she was about to do something their parents had forbidden. "Okay," she said, "I'm in." Over the next 6 weeks, Danny and Lisa learned to operate the inheritance. The ship was patient and thorough, explaining every system in terms they could understand, walking them through procedures until they became second nature. Lisa took charge of engineering and maintenance, discovering that she had a natural talent for working with technology. Danny focused on command and navigation, learning to guide the massive ship through space like an extension of his own body. They also learned about the current state of the galaxy. The inheritance had been monitoring communications throughout its long dormancy, and it had an extensive database of galactic politics and power structures. The picture it painted was not encouraging. The galaxy was dominated by 5 major powers: the hierarchy, the Confederation, the Empire, the Union, and the Consortium. These 5 had divided most of known space between themselves through a series of treaties and agreements that left little room for newer species. Humanity was classified as a minor species, allowed to exist in a small volume of space near Earth, but forbidden from expanding beyond certain boundaries. Human ships were tolerated in galactic commerce, but they were subject to inspection by any of the major powers, forced to pay higher tariffs on trade goods, and excluded from the most profitable markets. Most humans accepted this arrangement. They told themselves that things would improve with time, that humanity just needed to prove itself, that eventually the other species would come to respect them. The inheritance showed Danny evidence that suggested otherwise. The and the have been exchanging communications regarding humanity for the past decade, the ship explained during one of their training sessions. They are concerned about the rate of human technological development. Their analysts predict that within 200 years, humanity will surpass the current capabilities of all 5 major powers combined. That sounds like good news, Lisa said. It would be, except for the solutions they are considering. The favor strict limitations on human access to advanced technology. The prefer a more direct approach. Which is elimination. They have proposed destroying Earth before humanity can become a threat. Danny felt cold anger spreading through his chest. They want to kill everyone on Earth, billions of people. The proposal has not yet been accepted by the other powers, but support is growing. The End are concerned about the precedent, but they are also concerned about human advancement. The Consortium, which controls most galactic commerce, is torn between fear of humanity and desire to profit from human innovation. How long do we have? Unknown, such decisions take time in galactic politics. Years, perhaps decades, but the danger is real. Danny made his decision in that moment. He would not wait for the galaxy to decide whether his species deserved to live or die. He would take action, show strength, and force the major powers to recognize that humanity was not a problem to be solved, but a partner to be respected. He started small. 3 months after purchasing the inheritance, Danny flew his ship into a sector of space controlled by the hierarchy. A patrol fleet immediately moved to intercept him. "Human vessel, you are in restricted space," the commander announced. His image appeared on the bridge dome, a large creature with gleaming compound eyes and mandibles that clicked as he spoke. "You will surrender your ship for inspection and prepare to be escorted to a detention facility." Danny smiled. "No." The commander's mandibles stopped clicking. "Excuse me." "I said no. I'm not surrendering my ship. I'm not submitting to inspection. And I'm definitely not going to a detention facility. I'm passing through this sector on my way to the trading hub, and you're going to let me do that." "Human, you seem to misunderstand your situation. There are 15 warships in this patrol fleet. Your vessel is alone. You will comply or you will be destroyed." Danny leaned back in his command chair. "Lisa, would you show our friends what we can do?" Lisa had been waiting at the weapons station, her fingers hovering over the controls. She pressed a single button. Outside the inheritance, 15 warships suddenly found themselves without power. Their lights went dark, their engines died, and their weapons fell silent. The ships drifted helplessly in space, completely disabled but undamaged. "That was an electromagnetic pulse targeted specifically at your ship systems," Danny explained to the stunned commander, whose image flickered on a backup display. "It didn't hurt anyone, and your ships will reboot in about an hour. But I think it demonstrates my point. I'm not a threat that your patrol fleet can handle. So I suggest you let me pass and report to your superiors that humanity is no longer the pushover you thought we were." The commander's mandibles clicked rapidly. "This is an act of war." "No, this is a demonstration. A war would look very different, and I don't think the hierarchy wants to see what that would look like. Do you?" There was a long silence. Then the commander's image disappeared. Danny flew through space without further interference. Word spread quickly through the galactic community. A human ship had humiliated a patrol fleet without firing a single weapon. The major powers scrambled to gather intelligence on this mysterious vessel and its captain. They found nothing useful because there was nothing to find. As far as galactic records showed, Danny was just a cargo hauler who had bought a worthless ship at auction. They were the first to make contact. A diplomatic vessel appeared alongside the Inheritance 3 days after the incident, requesting permission to board. Danny granted the request, curious about what they wanted. The ambassador was a tall creature with 4 arms and silver skin that shimmered as it moved. It introduced itself as and spoke with careful precision. "Captain," said, standing in the middle of the bridge and studying everything with obvious interest, "you have caused quite a disturbance in galactic affairs." "I just wanted to pass through space. They tried to stop me. I asked them nicely to reconsider." "You disabled 15 warships." "I disabled their systems temporarily. Nobody was hurt. They would have done much worse to me if they had the chance." Made a gesture with 3 of its arms that Danny's translator interpreted as acknowledgement. "The Confederation is curious about your vessel. Our scans indicate construction, but the disappeared thousands of years ago. Where did you acquire such a ship?" "I bought it at auction. Nobody else wanted it." "And yet it appears to be fully functional, with capabilities far exceeding any current galactic technology." Danny smiled. "I'm good at fixing things." Studied him with its large, silver eyes. "Captain, I will be direct. The Confederation believes that humanity represents an interesting variable in galactic affairs. We have observed your species since first contact, and we have been impressed by your adaptability and innovation. However, we have also been concerned about human ambition." "Concerned how?" "Some of our analysts believe that humanity will eventually challenge the existing power structure of the galaxy. Others believe that you will destroy yourselves before that happens. Either outcome would be unfortunate." "And what does the Confederation want?" "We want to understand you. We want to know what you intend to do with the power you have suddenly acquired. A ship like yours, in the wrong hands, could destabilize the entire galactic order. In the right hands, it could ensure stability for to come." Danny considered the ambassador's words carefully. They were known for their political maneuvering, their ability to play all sides against each other while advancing their own interests. They were not trustworthy, but they were also not hostile, at least not yet. "I don't want to destabilize anything," Danny said. "I just want humanity to be treated fairly. No more inspection stops in our own territory. No more tariffs that only apply to human ships. No more secret meetings where other species decide whether we should be allowed to exist." Skin shimmered in a pattern Danny had not seen before. "You know about the discussions regarding humanity's future. I know that some species want to destroy us before we can become a threat. I know that others are willing to let it happen. And I know that the only way to change their minds is to show them that attacking humanity would be very, very expensive. And your ship can demonstrate this." "My ship is just the beginning. They left many gifts for humanity throughout the galaxy. I'm going to find them." The ambassador was quiet for a long moment. Then it made another gesture, this one interpreted as respect. "The Confederation will not oppose you, Captain. We will watch with interest as events unfold. And if you succeed in changing the galactic order, we would be pleased to discuss a more formal arrangement between our peoples." "That's all I'm asking." Departed, and Danny watched its ship disappear into the distance. Lisa came to stand beside him, her expression thoughtful. "Do you trust them?" she asked. "Not even a little, but they're not stupid. They can see which way the wind is blowing, and they want to be on the winning side." "Are we the winning side?" Danny looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there were more ships, more ancient gifts waiting for humanity to claim them. Somewhere out there were species that wanted to destroy his people and species that might become allies. Somewhere out there was the future, uncertain and dangerous and full of possibility. "I don't know," he admitted, But I'm going to find out. The next 6 months were busy. Danny and Lisa crisscrossed the galaxy, following clues left by the Inheritance's databases to locations where other artifacts might be found. They discovered a weapons cache on a dead moon in the Perseus Arm, a manufacturing facility hidden inside an asteroid, and a communications array that could contact the entire galaxy simultaneously. Each discovery made the major powers more nervous. They demanded that Danny surrender his ship and all technology to a coalition of galactic authorities. Danny refused. The threatened military action. Danny responded by appearing over there with his weapons powered up, making it clear that any attack would be answered in kind. The threats stopped. The Union tried a different approach. They offered Danny a fortune in credits, a seat on their ruling council, and a guarantee of safety for Earth. All he had to do was share technology with them. Danny refused that too. "I'm not doing this for money or power," he told the ambassador. "I'm doing this because humanity deserves to stand on its own. We don't need protectors or patrons. We need to be recognized as equals." The consortium, ever practical, offered to negotiate. They proposed a new trade agreement that would eliminate the unfair tariffs on human goods, open restricted markets to human merchants, and give Earth a voice in galactic commerce decisions. In exchange, Danny would agree to stop making the major powers nervous. Danny accepted the trade agreement, but made no promises about the major powers. Word of these negotiations spread throughout human space. For the first time since first contact, ordinary humans began to believe that their species might have a future among the stars. Danny became a hero, his name spoken with hope and pride by billions of people who had never met him. Not everyone was happy about this. The human government on Earth viewed Danny's activities with growing alarm. They had spent 30 years carefully building relationships with the major powers, accepting unfair treatment in exchange for peace and stability. Now one man with one ship was threatening to undo everything they had worked for. They sent a representative to speak with him. Admiral was 60 years old, with gray hair cut short and eyes that had seen too much to be surprised by anything. She had commanded humanity's tiny fleet during the first contact years, negotiating from a position of weakness against species that could have wiped out her people without effort. She had accepted humiliation and inequality because the alternative was extinction. She did not approve of Danny. "You're going to get us all killed," she said, standing on the bridge of the Inheritance and looking around with barely concealed envy. "The major powers tolerate humanity because we're not a threat. You're showing them that we could become one, and that's going to make them decide to eliminate us before it's too late." "With respect, Admiral, they were already considering that option. I'm just giving them a reason to reconsider." "By threatening them, by humiliating their fleets. That's not diplomacy, Captain, that's provocation." Danny stood up from his command chair and faced the Admiral directly. "Diplomacy has gotten humanity nothing except scraps from the table of species that consider us inferior. I'm not threatening anyone. I'm demonstrating that we have value, that we're worth respecting, that attacking us would be a mistake. That's the only language the major powers understand." "And what happens when they call your bluff? What happens when they send 100 ships instead of 15? Then 100 ships will be disabled instead of 15. The Inheritance was built by a species that makes the current major powers look like children playing with toys. There's nothing they can do to this ship that it can't handle." Admiral's expression did not change. "You're very confident." "I've had 6 months to learn what this ship can do. Yes, I'm confident." "And what about after? Even if you win every confrontation, you can't be everywhere at once. You can't protect every human colony, every human ship, every human individual. Sooner or later, someone will pay the price for your arrogance." Danny felt the words hit him like a punch to the gut. She was right, of course. He was just one ship. He could not protect everyone. But he could try. "I'm working on that," he said. "The left more than one ship behind. I'm going to find the others and wake them up. I'm going to build a fleet that can protect humanity, not just intimidate our enemies." "And how long will that take?" "I don't know. Years, maybe. but it's better than doing nothing and hoping the major powers don't decide to destroy us." Admiral studied him for a long moment. Then, to Danny's surprise, she smiled. "You remind me of myself," she said. 40 years ago, before I learned that hope was dangerous and ambition was suicide. I was just like you, full of fire and certainty, ready to take on the galaxy. What happened? I grew up. I learned that the universe doesn't care about human potential or human dreams. I learned that survival matters more than pride. With respect, Admiral, I disagree. Surviving without pride isn't living. It's just existing. The Admiral nodded slowly. Maybe you're right. Maybe I've been so focused on keeping humanity alive that I forgot to ask whether the life I was protecting was worth living. She extended her hand. Danny shook it. I won't help you, she said. I can't. My responsibilities require me to prioritize safety over ambition, but I won't interfere either. Go find your fleet, Captain. Show the galaxy what humanity can become, and if you succeed, I'll be the first to admit I was wrong. And if I fail, then I'll do what I've always done, pick up the pieces and try to keep our species alive for another generation. The Admiral departed, and Danny watched her shuttle disappear into the distance. Lisa came to stand beside him, her expression troubled. She's not wrong, Lisa said. We can't protect everyone with one ship. I know. And finding more vessels could take decades. We might not have that much time. I know that too. So what are we going to do? Danny sat back down in his command chair and closed his eyes. The inheritance hummed around him, waiting for his decision, ready to follow whatever path he chose. We're going to do something crazy, he said finally. We're going to ask for help. 2 weeks later, Danny broadcast a message to the entire galaxy. His face appeared on every screen, every display, every communication device from one end of known space to the other. The communication array made it possible, overriding every frequency and protocol to ensure that no one could ignore what he had to say. My name is Danny, he began. I am human. 6 months ago, I bought an ancient alien ship at auction because nobody else wanted it. That ship turned out to be a gift from a species called who disappeared 10,000 years ago but left behind technology that makes everything in the current galaxy look primitive. He paused to let that sink in. I'm not here to threaten anyone. I'm not here to start a war. I'm here to offer something that the galaxy has never had before, a choice. For thousands of years, the major powers have maintained order through force and fear. They've divided up the galaxy between themselves, crushed anyone who challenged them, and told everyone else to accept their place at the bottom of the hierarchy. Most species have gone along with this arrangement because they had no alternative. I'm offering an alternative. They didn't just leave one ship behind. They left hundreds scattered throughout the galaxy, waiting for species with the courage to claim them. These ships aren't just powerful, they're keys to a new kind of galactic order, one based on cooperation instead of domination, one where every species has a voice, not just the ones with the biggest fleets. I'm not asking you to follow me. I'm not asking you to fight for me. I'm asking you to join me in building something better. If you're tired of being bullied, if you're tired of watching the powerful take whatever they want, if you believe that the galaxy can be more than just an endless competition for dominance, then reach out. Work together. Find the gifts the left behind and use them to create the future you want instead of accepting the future others have planned for you. My name is Danny, I am human, and I believe the galaxy deserves better. The broadcast ended. Across known space, trillions of beings began to talk about what they had heard. Some dismissed it as the ravings of a madman. Others called it dangerous propaganda that needed to be silenced. But some listened. Some remembered their own grievances against the major powers. Some began to dream of possibilities that had never occurred to them before. And in hidden corners of the galaxy, on dead moons and inside asteroids, and beneath the surfaces of forgotten worlds, ancient vessels began to stir. They had been waiting for 10,000 years. The wait was almost over. Danny sat on the bridge of the inheritance and watched the responses flood in from across the galaxy. Thousands of messages, tens of thousands, each one representing a being who had heard his words and decided to answer. Lisa stood beside him, her hand on his shoulder, her face glowing with reflected light from the screens. "What now?" she asked. Danny smiled. It was the same smile he had worn when he first bought the inheritance, when he had taken a chance on a ship nobody wanted and discovered that it was worth more than anyone could have imagined. "Now," he said, "we get to work." The story of humanity's rise was just beginning, and the galaxy would never be the same.